A Rebbe is motivated by something more than love and fear, something more than intellect. And that is called truth. It's been 28 years since the Lubavitcher Rebbe passed. The anniversary of that day is this year going to be on July 2nd. I think it's a Shabbos. All over the world, people will be marking that day, but it's a mixed feeling. When a Tzadik passes away, and we're talking about a true Tzadik, there are two dimensions, two aspects. One, of course, is the great loss. The world is so much poorer without his presence. On the other hand, the anniversary of the passing is the day in which his mission was completed, and all that he did is now prominent in heaven's view, and it strengthens and empowers all of the good that he did in the world, and therefore it makes it quite a bit of a celebration. So on the surface, externally, it's a sad, painful, tragic time, but internally, let's say on the Kabbalistic level, it's actually a celebration of a lifetime achievement, divine achievement. Well, let's speak for a moment. What exactly is a tzaddik? Is it the same as a rebbe? What is a tzaddik? So there are different types. There are people who are absolutely righteous. They simply do not sin. They do not violate any of the 613 commandments. Some people claim that that's impossible. Well, it depends for whom. For a tzaddik, it is very possible. In fact, it's their nature. For the non-tzaddik, yeah, it's pretty much impossible. But let's talk about the tzaddik. The tzaddik is someone whose soul, godly soul, is so dominant in their body that there really is no room for the human soul or animal soul, or certainly Yetzer Hara. There's no room. It doesn't exist. The soul that animates the body is the godly soul. And that's all there is. And a godly soul has absolutely no interest in sinning. It couldn't sin if it wanted to. That is a tzaddik. So when we use the word, we should be aware that it can be used in a form of a slang. You know, any nice guy, anybody I really like, I call him a tzaddik. If I don't like him, he's not a tzaddik. But that's using the word carelessly. The true definition of a tzaddik is someone whose godly soul is completely in charge, the only authority in the body, in the mind, in the heart, and so on. Now, among these tzaddikim, there are different types. For example, there are tzaddikim whose godly soul dominates all their behavior because intellectually they are completely focused, zeroed in on godliness in their mind, and that trickles down to the heart, and there is nothing ungodly in the system. Then there are those who are completely saintly, godly people. Their godly soul dominates, but it dominates with emotion. So there are those tzaddikim whose primary emotion, godly emotion, was love. Love of God was all-consuming, and there was no room in their mind, in their heart, in their body for any other kind of love. Only the Holy One, the holy love. Again, there are people who are tzaddikim, completely godly, completely dominated by godliness, but the main feature is fear, awe, humility. That governs and motivates and guides all the godly activity that the person does for the course of his life. And so we know that there was Beis Hillel, there was Beis Shammai, there were those who were motivated by love, there were those who were motivated by awe, there were those who were motivated by intellect, like King Solomon. There's a third kind of tzaddik, and that is the tzaddik whose primary motivation is the truth. Emes. What is. God is real. Is God lovable? Yeah, he's lovable. Is God awesome? Yes, he's awesome. Is God brilliant? Yeah, he's brilliant. But all of that pales in the presence of God's truth, the absolute truth of it. Now, when you're in touch with the truth of something, there's no drama, there's no extreme of one virtue over another. Like love and awe, they're pretty extreme, almost mutually exclusive, other than love brings a certain fear with it, and awe brings a certain love with it. But essentially, they're very different. They're right and left, fire and water. But when you have the truth, when you're focused on the simple truth, with no frills, artless, then there are no extremes. Because the truth is the same everywhere. So do you love God? Yeah, that's what truth dictates. Do you fear God? Are you in awe of God? Yeah, the same truth dictates fear. Intelligence, understanding, chachma, yeah, truth indicates that too. They're not extreme. They're all in harmony under the heading of truth. A Rebbe is of course a tzaddik, but not every tzaddik is a Rebbe. In two ways. One is, a tzaddik can be, and often is, a very private individual. In fact, it's easier for a tzaddik to be a tzaddik in private, a little disconnected from the maddening crowds. There are tzaddikim who are great leaders, very much involved with community, with Jewish affairs. A Rebbe is certainly involved with community affairs. But what makes him different from the tzaddik who's involved is that the involvement and the commitment to the community is primary. It's what motivates everything. Like the difference between a really good, kind person and a shepherd. A kind person would not harm an animal, would not starve an animal, would not tolerate seeing an animal in pain. But he's not committed his life like a shepherd to the welfare of the sheep. So there are those tzaddikim who are called shepherds of the people. Aren't too many of those in Jewish history. They're special. A Rebbe, by definition, is a shepherd. When they asked the previous Rebbe's daughter, who was married to the Rebbe, the library that your father brought from Europe, is that a private property? Does that belong to him privately, or is that communal property. And she said, the library belongs to the people because my father himself belonged to the people. Now, that's definitely a shepherd. He wasn't just involved in community, he belonged to the people. That's a Rebbe. So, the first aspect of a Rebbe that makes him different from a Tzadik is that he belongs to the people. Like our first Rebbe, which was Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, our first Rebbe, he belonged to the people. Everything he did was for the people, including not going into Israel, which of course he very much wanted to do. But because the generation that he brought out of Egypt was not going to be going into Israel, he stayed with them and didn't go himself either. Belonging to the people. That's also why, in the end, all the souls of those people who were buried in the desert, who didn't make it to the promised land, will, after Mashiach comes, make it to the promised land because Moshe is there with them, and when he comes, they come with him. So he never abandoned them and will not abandon them, will actually bring them to the promised land ultimately. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, a Rebbe, in the truest sense of the word, is motivated by something more than love and fear, something more than emotion, something more than intellect. And that is called truth. The truth is the crowning principle from which everything else flows. So the tzaddik who has tapped into one of the aspects, whether it's love or fear or compassion or devotion, that tends to be an extreme. And it is expressed with intensity, with extreme expression, which is awesome, but it's not the emes. It's not the truth itself. When you're tapped into the truth itself, that is the tzaddik that is described as the foundation of the world. Tzadik Yesod Olam. The tzaddik is the foundation of the world because truth is fundamental. Love is awesome. It's necessary. It's powerful. But it is not the truth. It's only one expression of the truth. Fear, also necessary, powerful, impressive, awesome. It's awe. It's not the truth. Not that it's false. It's an aspect. It's not the whole truth. So you can tell the truth, but it's not the whole truth. That doesn't mean you're lying partially, because then it's a complete lie. A partial truth is a complete lie. So we're not talking about falsehood, but we're saying there is focus on the truth itself, and then there is focus on what the truth demands. That which is true, you should love. That which is true, you should feel the awe. You should be committed. You should be devoted. But the truth itself has no extremes, because it is all inclusive, not exclusive. Truth needs no embellishment. Truth needs no drama. And so the greatest of the tzaddik and the lowest of the sinner, when it comes to true, it's all the same. I'll put it this way. The mitzvah, the act of the mitzvah, that's absolutely true. So let's say putting on tefillin. When a man puts on tefillin, what is he doing? He's doing what is absolutely true. Is he doing it out of fear? Maybe. Is he doing it out of love? Maybe. Is he doing it out of commitment? Or he can be doing it because it's true. In the simple sense, is it true that Jews put on tefillin? Yes. Jewish men have been putting on tefillin for 3,000 years? Yeah. So it's a Jewish thing? Absolutely. For men? Absolutely. Made out of leather? Yes. The simple truth. So when a person says, if I'm Jewish, what should I be doing? Well, you should be putting on tefillin. Out of love? I don't care. Out of fear? Whatever you want. But it's true. A Jew puts on tefillin. It's part of the definition of who you are. So, when the Tzadik puts on tefillin, or a bar mitzvah boy puts on tefillin for the first time, and he has no idea what they mean, he doesn't know what's written inside on the parchment scrolls, he doesn't know why they have to be leather and why they have to be square and why there are straps and what, he knows nothing. He was told that he's bar mitzvah, and his father got him a pair of tefillin, and he puts on the tefillin. Who's performing the mitzvah? Well, they're both performing the mitzvah. Well, whose performance is more important? In truth, there is no more or less important. So, hypothetically, if there was only one pair of tefillin, and either the tzaddik puts them on or the bar mitzvah boy puts them on, they can't both. So you have to choose. Who should put on the tefillin? The tzaddik or the bar mitzvah boy? Flip a coin. There is no difference. Yeah, you can argue the tzaddik should put it on because he always does. He hasn't missed a day, so he, being more responsible, should be the one to put on the tefillin. Well, on the other hand, you can argue he's been doing it all his life. The bar mitzvah boy, he's got to start off on the right foot. He's got to put on tefillin because this is his first opportunity. They're both good arguments. You could go either way. But in essence, makes no difference. It is not a bigger mitzvah if the tzaddik puts on the tefillin. It is not a smaller mitzvah if a bar mitzvah boy puts on the tefillin. Or to make it even more dramatic, you have a tzaddik who never sinned in his life, and he wants to put on the tefillin, and then you have a person who has been very sinful. He's not just young and a bar mitzvah boy. He's a sinful person. He doesn't keep kosher. He doesn't keep Shabbos. He doesn't keep the commandments. But he has an opportunity to put on tefillin. So who should put on the tefillin? The sinner or the tzaddik? And again, you can make arguments both ways. And they're both good arguments. But as far as the mitzvah goes, for whom is it a bigger mitzvah? There is no bigger mitzvah. Because the mitzvah is true. And true is true. So ideally, the sinful person would say to the tzaddik, oh no, you put on the tefillin. It's your thing. I mean, you should be doing. And the tzaddik should be saying, yeah, well, I do it plenty. You have an opportunity for the first time and it makes such a big difference for you. You put on the tefillin. That would be beautiful. Each one arguing for the other. But in terms of the mitzvah itself, same. Exactly the same. It's as if we say, putting on tefillin has an infinite effect. Okay, so who should put on the tefillin? The tzaddik or the sinner? So, well, if the tzaddik puts on tefillin, will it have more than an infinite effect? Infinite is infinite. And if the sinner puts on tefillin, will it have less than an infinite effect? So when it comes to infinity, there's no bigger infinity or smaller infinity. So in essence, which is even more than infinite, there's no difference. And that's why a Rebbe could be inspired to want to put on tefillin with people who have never put on tefillin before, people who haven't put on tefillin for a long time, people who are not keeping any of the other commandments. But when you get a chance to put on tefillin, which only takes a few minutes, your tefillin as important as mine, as essential, as true. Speaking of good news, there's a wonderful retreat coming up, the National Jewish Retreat, run by the JLI, Jewish Learning Institute. It's going to be August 9th through the 14th in the Miami area, in a 5-star hotel, best speakers, best lectures, best classes, best accommodations, and best food. So if you have those 5 days free, or any one of those 5 days free, think about joining us. It's going to be great for body and soul. And there's actually a discount if you put my initials in there, RMF. There's a little discount for those who are already committed, already studying, already interested. Google it, look it up, Jewish Retreat, JLI. And hopefully we'll see you there. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic, and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that. And that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.